Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Today is October the 25th, 2017. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. First, a little housekeeping. Let's talk about a fight on the horizon. In fact, a couple of fights, just so you know where I stand on them. There are videos here online already about both of these fights. First, the Guillermo Rigondeaux Vasyl Lomachenko fight, I view as a mismatch. I think Rigondeaux's at an age where he's just decided to take the biggest challenges out there. It's feast or famine, right? Either he wins a fight he shouldn't win, or he loses to a much bigger man. But just understand, Lomachenko is younger, Lomachenko is bigger. These two guys really don't belong in the same ring together. Lomachenko throws higher volume. I think Lomachenko wins that fight big. The next fight is Rob Brandt against Bermane. Now look, I know 168 has a lot of interesting names, including George Groves, including Chris Eubank. I know those guys looked great in their fights for the WBSS tournament. I'm still expecting Bermane to win the tournament. I think Bermane beats Rob Brandt here. The thing to remember with Bermane is that he's a southpaw coming in at angles, right? He's defensively better than both George Groves and Chris Eubank. Don't let visually appealing knockouts obscure the fact that in boxing, skill still matters. Defense still matters. Right? I'm expecting Bermane to beat Rob Brandt. Now let's talk about two other fights that are coming up. They're remarkably similar. Right? I don't even know why they're having the Deontay Wilder-Bermane Stiverne fight. Didn't Wilder show all of us, myself included, that the foot speed gap between the two guys is just too wide to overcome? Right? Wilder doesn't have to really show you his big right hand to win this fight easily. All he has to do is stick and move and maintain distance. Bermane Stiverne doesn't have ring coverage. In other words, he can't throw punches halfway across the ring. If he can't land on you, his power doesn't matter. Right? Fighters like Chris Arreola made the mistake of running inside, getting in the pocket with Bermane Stiverne. Deontay Wilder doesn't have to get in the pocket. Wilder is long as it is. Wilder knows how to use length. Wilder can hit you from the next area code. I don't believe there's anything Bermane Stiverne can do about it. Right? His only hope is to hope that Wilder gets self-deluded and decides to come deep in the pocket to try to duke it out with him. Wilder is much more clever than that. I'm expecting Wilder to successfully defend his heavyweight title. I'll hedge that play. With Stiverne by KO, Stiverne only has a puncher's chance. Right? Let me also say, too, that Wilder is the better athlete than Stiverne. Sometimes people, when I make a video, say, what do you mean when you say the better athlete? Well, what I mean is the fighter with better agility, better reflexes, more ambidexterity, right? Better balance. A guy who can, when something unexpected happens in the ring, he can get out of harm's way in a more coordinated, faster manner. Right? Just understand, Bermane Stiverne is a big hitter. He's one of boxing's biggest hitters at any weight class. But just understand that he's not the athlete Deontay Wilder is. Wilder doesn't have to overextend himself to win this fight. He can stay outside behind the jab. He's the champ, right? It's up to Bermane Stiverne to convince us that he deserves the title. I don't see how Stiverne can beat Wilder if Wilder fights a keep-away fight, right? Wilder almost certainly is going to win most of the rounds on the judges' scorecards. Remember, when you're the challenger and you're fighting the champ, you have to take his title. If the fight's ruled a draw, the champ leaves with his belt. I'm expecting Wilder to leave the ring with his belt. Stiverne moves too slow, doesn't have the foot speed, quite frankly, doesn't have great hand speed, right? If I'm Wilder, I don't even get into the hand speed. Why bother? Just stay away from him, shoot a jab, make the fight a dull fight, win 10 of the 12 rounds on the judges' scorecards, move on to the next challenge. Finally, let's talk about an interesting fight. Robert Helenius, the Nordic Nightmare, against Dillian Whyte. Now, I know Whyte is 6'4", but understand he's the shorter man in this fight. And I think he should use the height gap to his advantage. I like Dillian Whyte here. I think Helenius, like Stiverne, is just too slow. Isn't as good an athlete as Dillian Whyte. If you look at Whyte's amateur fights, his fight against Anthony Joshua, where he drops Joshua, for example, you're going to notice that Whyte himself can stick and move, right? If I'm Whyte, I make foot speed and athleticism an issue. In other words, even if I think I can outbox the guy in the pocket, why even bother to do so? Just stick and move, stay around the pocket, force Helenius to use his feet, force Helenius to find you. Since you're the shorter man, bend at the waist. Make it even harder for him to find you. Get low. Force him to reach for you. Right? Let me also say, too, Helenius got dropped by Johann Duhaupas. Right? Now, that's the fight that Whyte needs to look at. Duhaupas does a 1-2. In fact, he drops Helenius several times in the fight, but the last knockdown is interesting because he does a 1-2 when he hits Helenius with the right hand, right from distance. And Duhaupas is shorter than Helenius, just like Whyte is. It's clear that Helenius is not defensively blessed. In other words, a shorter guy using speed, jumping around, using angles, forcing the slower moving non-athlete to change position, to move. Why do you jump around? So Helenius doesn't, isn't able to time your shots, right? Helenius has to move with you, make adjustments, right? You're leveraging your movement advantage. You'll notice that Duhaupas is outside, he's over here, then he just comes in with the 1-2. Helenius falls like a tree. He's hit so flush, he's so unprepared for it, that he doesn't stagger back. No, he just literally falls over. Those are the kind of dynamics, in my opinion, that Dillian Whyte needs to set up. In other words, don't stay in the pocket and try to outbox him from up close. Right? Helenius is two-handed. He has a jab. He throws hooks with both hands. He has an excellent right hand. He also can go to the body. You shouldn't be close enough to him where the slower moving guy has an opportunity to hit you in the body. Right? Bending at the waist helps you hide your body as well. If I'm Whyte, I look at the Duhaupas film, I use movement. Same thing with Deontay Wilder. I use movement here. I use my athleticism advantage to my advantage. I come in low, force the other guy to reach if I'm Dillian Whyte, right? And I'm fighting a taller guy. If I'm Wilder and I'm the taller guy fighting a slower moving opponent, I use my reach. In other words, Whyte should use movement and bend at the waist I believe Wilder should use his reach and distance, length, right? If Wilder and Whyte both do that, I think they win their fights handsomely, right? I don't believe either fight is that close. But you need to hedge both fights. Stiverne by KO needs to be a hedge because Stiverne hits hard. Robert Helenius by KO needs to be a hedge because he hits hard, right? Both of those guys are big hitters. They just don't move well enough, in my opinion, to be competitive against Wilder and Whyte. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Added wrinkle in the Whyte fight. That fight's taking place in Cardiff. Now, I know Whyte's from Brixton. Okay, fair enough. But let's face it. It's more of a home fight for Whyte, right? He has the big local promoter, Eddie Hearn, right? It's more of a home fight for Whyte than it is for Helenius, who's from Finland, right? So just understand that in addition to having the athleticism edge, the foot speed advantage, the coordination advantage, Whyte also has the home crowd advantage. So I like Wilder and Whyte to win their fights. I'll hedge both plays with their opponents by KO. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Let me just add to in passing. There's some crazy stories going around where Larry Holmes, for example, gave an interview where he said that he thought that Anthony Joshua beats prime Mike Tyson. Come on now. Come on. Hasn't Tyson beaten enough tall guys in his career for us to realize that Tyson's athleticism, his ability to move around the ring quickly, his suddenness is a huge advantage for him? Understand, when he lost to Buster Douglas, Buster had a great jab. A great jab. Now, Larry Holmes had a great jab, too. Maybe Larry's assuming that any heavyweight can have a Buster Douglas, Larry Holmes level jab. Not the case. Without the great jab, how is Anthony Joshua even going to hurt Mike Tyson? Right? Tyson was able to fight quickly. Tyson could move in his prime. Look at Tyson against Marvis Frazier. Anthony Joshua is really a counterpuncher who's cautious. How would Anthony Joshua be able to deal with Tyson's speed? Both his hand speed, Tyson throwing combinations where it's power punches, both hands. Tyson's speed and Tyson's agility. I don't believe that fight's competitive. I would take Mike Tyson in a second. If you want to see film footage of Mike Tyson beating up on taller guys, all you have to do is look at Mike Tyson against Frank Bruno. Right? Size is not the be-all and end-all in a fight. I believe this era of supersized heavyweights would fall apart if a Mike Tyson or a Rocky Marciano or a Jack Dempsey or a Joe Frazier had a crack at them. Anyway, that's one man's opinion. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. And let me also say this too. Larry Holmes did fight Mike Tyson. He looked awfully good in the first 4 rounds. For those of you who don't know about Larry Holmes, I encourage you to look at his film footage. Larry, quite frankly, is one of history's better heavyweights. That's how I see it. Thanks for stopping by.